Terrence Bud Crawford, in my opinion, made a huge mistake going for Canelo Alvarez. And the only reason I say that is if he doesn't plan on retiring, because now he's, inactive, he's taking time off and trying to pursue this Canelo Alvarez fight. All the while, Canelo goes, all right, forget about this. Whatever went wrong in the negotiations went wrong. I'm moving on to Jake Paul. And now, Terrence Crawford has to be like, now what do I do? Because that was what he was banking on. It's so obvious that, Terrence Crawford was banking on this Canelo fight. So now that he doesn't have it, it's like, where do I go now? Do I go and jump into a Boots Ennis fight and, take a high risk and potentially low reward fight, or fight a guy like Virgil Ortiz at 54 and still, low reward, high risk? It's just a tough situation that Bud is in, because he went straight for that big money fight as opposed to, dealing with the guys around his weight class and giving the guys who deserve a chance, a chance. He just didn't do that. He said, forget everybody. I'm going to go with the business mindset. And I'm not saying, he should be, persecuted for that, but I'm ultimately and also saying that you can't, go to Canelo Alvarez and expect to get the fight right away. That's just not how it works. When you go for the cash cow in the sport of boxing, Canelo Alvarez, you can't expect to get that fight. You also have to understand the risk of pursuing that kind of mega fight, where it's like he's going to have other options. You can't expect him to necessarily take your fight if he's hearing all these offers of fighting a guy like Jake Paul for triple the money, but way less risk, as opposed to fighting, you for less money, and then there's more risk of him losing. You're coming up in weight, you're the smaller guy, and Canelo's at the tail end of his career, so why would he take that fight? It's all starting to make a little bit of sense to anybody who would just be looking for money. And I'm not saying Canelo's broke, he just wants the money. I'm not saying that, but like, he's at that point of his career where he's trying to put it on autopilot and say, let's just make some money. Let's get this legalized bank robbery popping, as Floyd Mayweather would say, and fight the easiest fights, but still make the most money out of it. That's what these guys are doing. Look at what Jake Paul himself is doing. He's not fighting guys that are, really have a good chance of beating him in the sport. If he really wanted to challenge himself, he'd be fighting a cruiserweight contender. But is he doing that? No, he's fighting the big names, but the guys that he knows he's gonna beat. Same thing with Canelo Alvarez. He's taking a page out of Jake Paul's book and saying, I know I could beat Jake Paul, but he's gonna make me more money than a guy like Canelo versus Crawford. Make more money than that fight. Canelo versus Benavidez. Canelo's gonna make more money with Jake, so it's a no-brainer, right? So that's why we're hearing the talk about Jake Paul and Canelo Alvarez. Yeah, Jake Paul's not credentialed, he's not qualified, he's not well decorated as a professional or an amateur boxer, but guess what? He's gonna put butts in seats and sell tickets and get eyeballs on the pay-per-views, so why not make it happen? That's what Canelo's thinking. It's not like he's more talented, it's not like Jake Paul's more talented than a guy like Terrence Crawford, but because that is the case, he's gonna go for Jake Paul because there's no risk in it. He's not gonna get stopped by Jake Paul. He's not gonna get hurt by Jake Paul. Just with technique alone, Jake Paul can't hurt Canelo Alvarez. I'm pretty sure if Canelo just stood in front of Jake and let him hit him, I think Canelo would be just fine, because he knows how to brace himself. There's a difference between professional boxers and professional MMA fighters. When you fight a professional boxer, especially of one of, Canelo Alvarez's pedigree, you're not gonna hurt him. I don't care how big Jake Paul is. He's not gonna hurt Canelo Alvarez. I promise you guys that right now. And people even make the reference of, look what happened to Tyson Fury. He got dropped by Francis Ngannou. The same logic doesn't apply for a guy like Canelo Alvarez as it does for a heavyweight. Heavyweights are literally the least talented division in the sport of boxing. And I say that with the utmost respect and as someone who loves to watch heavyweights, but there's a reason why. Because they're slower, they're less skilled, and they don't think as much. The IQ isn't the same as a guy like Canelo Alvarez or a guy like Floyd Mayweather who fought at 47, 54. The lighter weight classes are much more skillful than the heavier weight classes. So that argument alone goes out the window, and Jake Paul is just not there. He's not at the pedigree of a guy like Francis Ngannou. He can't do what Francis did. And this is me, I grew up on Jake Paul, I grew up on all these social media guys, but I also understand the sport of boxing more than anything, and Jake's not gonna have any chance, and it doesn't take a genius to understand that. Jake's just not on the level of Canelo Alvarez, but he's gonna make Canelo a lot of money, and that's why we're getting the fight between Canelo Alvarez and Jake Paul probably in May or September. But let me know in the comments what you guys think. Jake Paul versus Canelo Alvarez. Who you guys got and what do you guys think about the fight? You guys already heard my opinions. Leave yours down below. But thank you guys for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe. Peace.